everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode on Beyond the Mortgage. Today, I'm very excited to have Dwayne Jenkins with Credit Kwon Do helping us out with some credit questions. Thankfully, if you saw some recent posts, we had some great people send us some questions that Dwayne's going to help us out with today.
Nice.
So, we're going to get us started.
Okay.
One of the questions we got was, should I pay collections?
It depends. I would say know what you're paying and agree with it before you pay it and understand the repercussions, right? So with a collection, with most negative items on the credit report, it's going to stay there 7 years, right? Now, I used to work for a debt collector, one of the largest in the country. So this might be a long answer, but it's going to be worth it, right? So first of all, sometimes when you make a payment arrangement, you don't want to do that. So as a debt collector, the reason why I'd want to make a payment arrangement with you is so I can get your information updated in our computers. We spend hours every day just skip tracing, trying to find out where you work, where you bank, so we can sue you. So a lot of times if you owe $2,000, $3,000 and we take a $20 a month payment arrangement, it's not that we care about the $20, we care about your information.
Right.
And when you miss a payment, we can sue. So you want to be mindful of that. If you are going for a settlement, you want to have the money to truly settle it in one move and be done with it, right? So that's one. Should you pay a collection? Depends on the age of the collection. Again, with things falling off the credit report at the 7-year mark, if something's 6 years old, 6.5 years old, you may be better off waiting for that time to expire, right? I would typically pay a collection if I got a pre-legal notice from a collection agency, a notice from the door from the sheriff's department, like a warrant, something that tells me that they're escalating this to the next step and I'm about to get sued. That's pretty much the only time I would settle or pay a collection.
Okay. What is, as a follow-up to that, because I've had this happen with clients, what is the impact that you've seen with paying them off completely versus settling for less?
So I like paying them off completely. But again, every situation is different. So it's just about knowing what you're getting into. Me personally, I'm going to pay it off completely. Understand with the settlement that it is going to get noted as settled in full, right? And that could make a difference if you're applying for a loan. Understand that somebody that you apply for a loan with is going to see that there was a situation where someone else loaned you money and they got less back than what they put out. And that's just never a good notation to have. So I'm going to pay it in full if it's an option.
Gotcha. So so settling is going to have that notation. I've seen that where it says settle for less. Yes, it has a zero balance now, but it does have that notation there.
That scarlet letter,
exactly.
that asterisk. The other thing about that too is that if you get a reduction, if you agree on the settlement, if that difference is $600 or more, you're going to have to claim that as income and pay taxes on that. So that's something else to keep in mind. You got a $10,000 collection that gets dropped down to $3,000. You're going to have to pay taxes because that counts as $7,000 in income.
Interesting. Now, will they send you a 1099 for that?
They will.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Didn't know that one. That's an extra tidbit. We're not even going to charge you for that one. That's fantastic. Next question that was sent over. How long does a bankruptcy impact your scores?
It can impact your credit for 10 years. Yeah. So, you have, generally speaking, you have 2 chapters. Chapter 7, Chapter 13, it could impact you for up to 10 years. Now, that means appearing on your credit report. It's really going to hurt your score for the first 24 months, 36 months. The impact will lessen as it gets older, but it will still be impacting your credit.
You're right. I've seen some where you'll see, like, when you first at the top of the credit report, it'll say 720 score. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. And you scroll down and it was like, whoa, bankruptcy 2 years ago. So the scores can rebound pretty quick,
right?
Especially if you reestablish credit and maintain that. I said, I've seen people that have really great scores, but you look down and that bankruptcy isn't really that old.
Right. Right. You can recover, but also understand, man, with the bankruptcy, somebody with a 720 with no bankruptcy, that's a different 720 than somebody with a 720 with a bankruptcy. You want to avoid it if you can. The other thing about bankruptcy too, I see a lot of people get into a jam where they can't afford their bills or something's happened. They want to go 13 and they want to go 13 to pay back some of it. Oh, I want to honor my debt. We always pay our debts back. Well, you're in this situation because your debt is too much to handle. If it's possible for you to go 7, go 7. Because what I'll see is people go 13. They enter this payment arrangement. They can't keep up with it. It gets dismissed and then they end up going 7 anyway. And you have 2 bankruptcies on your credit report. So yeah, if you can go 7, go 7. If you have property or some other situation going on, then you may need to go 13. That's for your bankruptcy attorney to help you work through. But 7's the way, man. You want to get rid of it so you can truly move on with your life.
That is true. In the 7, it's usually a couple months from the time you file to discharge.
Yes.
Done, and you can move past. Whereas that payment, that can last and last and last.
Yes.
And like you said, it can lead to even more things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's not get caught up on certain terminology in credit, right? So dismissed is not a good thing. I know a lot of times in our life, dismissed is a good word. Class dismissed. This charges are dismissed. Look, man, when your bankruptcy is dismissed, that's not good. That is absolutely bad, right? And while we're clarifying lingo, the other thing that gets misconceived as good when it's really bad is charge off. Oh, yes. Well, it charged off. I thought that was good. No. A charge off is an awful thing to have on your credit. So let's get through these questions and maybe we'll do some myth busting at the end.
No, that's a good one. I have had a couple of people with that. So yes, let's go through these because people were nice enough to send them in.
Yeah.
So the next question we received was, what types of credit build your scores the best?
Okay. Your credit score loves to see a mix of credit. So any loan will take you in the right direction, whether it's an auto loan, mortgage, personal loan. But what really gets the algorithm going in your favor is a revolving line of credit, i.e. credit cards, open-ended. That is going to be the thing that just supercharges your score. I would recommend you get a credit card if you haven't had one already. I'd recommend you actually get more than one credit card. But yes, credit cards are going to be the jam.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And since we're kind of on credit cards a little bit there, one of the questions we received was, do secured credit cards help your scores?
Secured credit cards absolutely help your scores. I love a secured credit card. Credit cards and credit is really about taking the best option available to you at the time. So if you're in rebuilding mode or you're just getting started off in credit, a secured card is fine. Now, you shouldn't be getting a secured card if you're in the 700s and you have established history. But yes, if you're starting off or you're starting over, rebuilding with a secured card is the way to go. You can get them for as little as $200 as a deposit. Whatever you put down as a deposit usually sets your limit.
Right. So for people that don't know, that's how it works is you basically front the money or it's tied to your bank account.
Yes.
To show that you have the funds there, and then that way it's secured.
Yes.
So, okay.
Absolutely. And I'll say this too. One thing that we help a lot of people with the credit challenge is Credit Kwon Do. And we will get people that are looking for a secured card and they will want to put down more money. Like maybe the card issuer will take $3,000 instead of $300. The bare minimum is plenty to establish your score. As far as the algorithm goes, it's not going to make a difference if you put down $3,000 or $300. Put down the bare minimum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a good one, I think. Now it's a little bit longer one. So if I have multiple credit cards with max balances, so near the limit.
Yeah.
Is it better to pay one down as much as possible or pay multiple of them down a little bit?
That's a great question. So your utilization is going to be based on all of them added together. So honestly, when somebody says you need to be at 30% utilization, they're looking at the complete utilization of your credit report. That's all of them. What I would do, I would start with the smallest card and then I would knock it out and then I would move on to the next card. Yeah. So
So you can start getting that waterfall effect of whatever money you're putting towards that one, now you can put towards this one and really start.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just because behavioral wise, it's probably easier to manage that, and you'll get more confidence and feel good as you see one checked off and paid off. So that's probably the way I would go. But your utilization is going to count for your overall credit.
Well, like you said, I think you made a great point. Credit scores aren't any different than any other goal that you're trying to attain. Whether you're trying to eat better, work out more, you gotta appreciate those small wins.
Yes.
Or you're gonna get discouraged. I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm going to get some ice cream.
Yeah. For sure.
You got to write down those things and keep track of them so you can recognize those small achievements.
Yeah, I love the analogy too. And I mean, if I'm sitting here with a $10,000 credit card and I've got a $500 credit card and a $500 credit card, I mean, I could be pumped up with 2 wins, or I could have put this $1,000 on the bigger card and not even feel any difference and be discouraged. Right. So, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Our next one. How much does being an authorized user help my scores?
I think authorized user is a big win. I think it could help tremendously. Here's the caveat with authorized user. I would only use one that's typically a family member or a close friend. I mean, we see these businesses that are selling trade lines. I have never, as a credit expert who's helped hundreds of people, dozens of people, been to the closings and have had so many success stories, never once have I recommended somebody purchase a trade line. Okay. I wouldn't sell a trade line. I wouldn't buy one. But if I've got a grandmother who can put me on her credit card and it's got plenty of age on there, the 8, 9, 10 years of history, the history is great, the balance is low, then that is definitely a win. If grandma wants to put me on 10 of them, put me on all 10 of them. The beautiful thing about an authorized user card is that you have all the benefits with very little risk. If they accumulate a late payment, if they accumulate a balance, you can be removed from that card. So you can just stay there while it benefits you. Right now, I want to say this too. On the other end of the authorized user relationship, you're going to allow somebody on your card. You want to put some control mechanisms in place. So just because you have a $10,000 limit and you're going to add your kid to your card, they don't need to access the entire $10,000. You could have them access a much smaller amount that you decide. That way, anything they do, it's minimized, right? Because you are responsible for what an authorized user does on your line of credit. So,
and that's a good point. Honestly, I didn't know that. And me personally, from a selfish standpoint, I've got a daughter who's a freshman in college.
Yeah.
So just turned 18, trying to get her some credit established because, with doing what we do here, we realize how important that is.
Sure.
And I've seen younger and younger people buying houses lately.
Absolutely.
So say I add her as an authorized user to one of my wife or I's cards. Is that what you would typically recommend as a starting point? Or would you say, okay, you're 18, let's get your card in your own name?
You know what? I would do a mix of both. I would absolutely do both. I would have an authorized user starting off, but I would also have the credit cards in her own name. They're going to have different impacts. Nothing's going to impact you as much as having a card in your name, but the authorized users can certainly help. Right?
How soon? How early? What age? Is it 18 that they can get one in their own name?
Yes.
Okay. So, the house, is there an age requirement to how soon they can be added as an authorized user?
So there are some cards and situations where you can add somebody as young as 13.
Wow.
Then in other companies, it's as young as 16. But and I get the question, does adding somebody that early help their credit? No, because you actually have to be 18 to sign the contract.
True.
You have to be 18 to have credit established. And so you won't have a FICO score unless there's been some form of identity theft. So I would say adding somebody as an authorized user before they're 18 is a chance to give them good habits.
Okay.
Right? So they already know how a credit card statement looks and how to read it by the time they turn 18. I don't have any kids, but here's some parenting advice from a non-parent. I would love to have a 16-year-old child, with their debit card. They're out on a date. They want to impress their friends, and the thing gets declined. It gets declined because it got frozen. They didn't pay their bill, whatever. They hit their limit on this purchase. I would love for them to feel that sort of embarrassment in a controlled environment, because that's better than learning for the first time in the real world.
True.
Yeah.
Good point. All right. Do self-reported accounts help credit? I'm seeing more and more of these on credit reports.
I've never been a big fan of self-reported accounts. And I mean, look at it. It looks like you're gaming the system. I mean, shout out to Matt here, that we've got a lender that wants to go beyond his normal duties to educate for people. That's fantastic. And in that, we've talked about how you can get an authorized user account. We've talked about how you can get a secure credit card for $200. Credit is accessible to you regardless of where your score is. So that being said, we know that Netflix is not a lender. We know that your electricity company did not loan you $500, right? And we see through that. And if you're taking those extreme measures to boost up your credit, it's just looking kind of thin. I'm not impressed. It's like these guys with like regular Mustangs that put like a Cobra on the side of it. Dude, we know that's not a Cobra. We know it's not a Shelby. We know your credit score is not really what it is. And I mean, honestly, a lot of lending algorithms don't count the utility bills and stuff like that. And we just see right through it. Yeah. So you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a damn pig, and I ain't trying to kiss it.
I like that analogy. I had a friend in college that used to put, I forget what school it was, but something law school. I'm like, dude, as soon as they start talking to you, they're going to know you didn't go to law school.
He's might have hired a lawyer.
He's like the guy from my cousin Vinny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Come on, man.
All right. Well, one more here. We got, what types of credit inquiries impact scores the most? So I get this a lot.
Yeah.
People will say, well, I don't want you pulling my credit because I'm worried about my scores going down.
Right.
And I can see that isn't the case.
Yeah.
What I've always thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, is what has the biggest impact is when people, especially around the holidays, run around Kohl's, Macy's, Best Buy, Target, open up all these new charge cards. Right. So am I wrong in that, or am I kind of on the right track?
Nah, you're absolutely correct. So yes, inquiries can affect your credit. And I honestly, I love the question. I love it when people say, oh, is this going to hurt me? Because at least they're thinking along the lines of what's good for their credit, right? But inquiries, they're not that big of a deal. We see a lot of poorly written, poorly advertised credit repair companies saying things like, hey, inquiry removal in 24 hours and things of that nature. We don't sell a service like that. We don't recommend using a service like that. And trust me, if you have an inquiry problem on your credit report, that's just smoke. The fire is coming from somewhere else on your credit report, right? So let's talk about what an inquiry is, right? A hard inquiry is when somebody pulls your credit. So typically, if they're going to want your date of birth or your social security number, it's probably going to be a hard inquiry, right? Now, get this. Hard inquiries will stay on your credit report for 24 months, but they only affect you for 12 months. So as ugly as it looks, when you go for a car and they run your credit 47 times, it only affects you for 12 months. That means month 13, you still see them there, but it's like looking at something ugly on the other side of plexiglass, right? It can't touch you. It's not real. You can see it, but it's not affecting you, right? So why would you pay somebody to remove inquiries from your credit report that aren't even being impacted in your score? It's a money grab. I don't want to say it's a scam, but I don't think it's something that people should necessarily be paying for, right?
I would tell you from a lending standpoint, when we get the credit report, all we look, it says for us is last 120 days.
Yeah. Usually on the lending reports, yes, it absolutely does that. So on a report, it's typically going to stay there for 12 months. It only impacts your credit for 12 months. Now, let's talk about what that looks like, because I mentioned cars. So if you go car shopping, okay, I've had people come to me, can you help me with these inquiries? The dealership, they ran my credit all of these times. Well, they're actually trying to do you a favor. The dealership has relationships out there with certain banks, and they're trying to get you the lowest rate. How I personally buy a car is that I will get pre-approved with my bank or credit union, and then I will go to the dealership, and I want the dealership to run my credit 1,000 times if they can. I want to see if they beat the rate that I already have in hand, right? And as long as they run all these inquiries within 30 days, they only count the first inquiry on your score.
Okay.
You're allowed to rate shop. So let the system work for you. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's been a thing I've heard people say too, is like the 30-day window there.
Yeah.
We'll get that. So you mentioned it for cars, but I got to believe that it's across the board, right? When people are, or is it not?
No, it applies for cars and it does apply for mortgages. You're allowed to rate shop for either product as long as you do all of the shopping within a 30-day window, right? So, yeah, you'll be safe. It only counts as one income.
And what I've always mentioned to people when they've asked that question, I said, well, think of it. Most people are only going to buy one house at a time,
right?
Or one car at a time,
right?
So even though you have multiple inquiries, the bureaus know, okay, well, yes, you checked with this company and this company and this company, but ultimately you're only buying one house.
Absolutely.
Whereas if, like I said, to go back to our previous example, if Target hits you and Best Buy hits you and Kohl's hits you, it's feasible you could have opened 1, 2, 3, 4 accounts.
Absolutely.
So that's why those are going to have a bigger impact than if you do your due diligence while you're shopping for a mortgage.
For sure, absolutely. And again, that does not apply for credit cards or other loans. So you just need to kind of make your mind up, look at the benefits of a card and decide if you want to get it. A lot of people love to call us to see what we think of their odds of getting a card. And a lot of times we save people the hassle of an inquiry, or we found a better card than they were looking for. So use your resources. If you take anything away from this video, it's use your resources. You can come to Credit Kwon Do to get your Credit Kwon done. And I mean, people's mortgage is the people's choice, right? I mean, if you're a person out there and you want some guidance, get it from somebody who's a real person like Matt, who's going through some of the things you've gone through. He's a customer when he's not a lender, and he wants the best for you and your family.
Well, I can't do the weird eyebrow thing that he did, but I appreciate that. Now you mentioned we're done with our questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned some Mythbuster stuff. What do you got?
Myth busting. Some of the things I see on TikTok, man, or a lot of platforms. And I'm not gonna, I have some friends that post really good things on TikTok. So it's not a shot at that, but there is definitely some things that should be fact checked, right? One thing that I see is, hey, if you pay your bills twice a month, you'll build your credit twice as fast. That's not true. Okay. If you have a statement closing date on every type of loan, right? And with the statement closing date, that is the one day that they report updated information to the bureaus. You only have one. It doesn't matter if you pay your bills 6 times during the month, it's going to get reported once on a statement closing date. If anything, paying your bills multiple times in a month will trigger an algorithm issue. People like Capital One and these other huge lenders, they have millions of customers. They know what patterns look like for normal accounts, and they have fraud triggers. I've had people have their cards closed, okay, because they tried to game the system with some trick that they read on Google or something like that. So you will not build your credit twice as fast paying your bills more than once a month.
Well, make sure you remember this. We broke news today that not everything you see on social media is true.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it's surprising to a lot of people.
For sure. But that's a common one that we also get. Another thing that we feel is really overlooked is how late are you? Understand that your credit report will report you every 30 days. So we've seen people miss a payment, and then we've seen them say, well, you know what? I've already missed my payment. I will just make 2 payments next month. By the time you make that payment next month, you've gone past the 30-day mark, and now you've been reported. So if you're late, they might be calling, you might get a late fee, but maybe it's only 17 days. Get it in by the 29th day. And if you're already past 30 days, then the next thing you'd want to do is not beat yourself up about it, but you'd want to get called about the 59th day before it goes into the 60-day mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen. I've had people reach out to me because the mortgages, you get until the 15th before they charge you a late fee.
Sure.
And people say, well, I was the 16th, so I'm like, whatever, I'll just wait. If you pay it, like Dwayne just said, before the 30th, before the end of the month, you're not getting hit on your credit. It's just giving you that late fee.
Right.
So people, they misunderstand that sometimes, and I think that's what the lenders want you to, or the servicers want you to think, is they want that payment coming in. But if something goes sideways and you can't make that payment till the 17th, still make the payment. It doesn't affect your credit until you go a full 30 days late.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And then the other thing, just understand that, 7 years is a very long time to pay the price for a mistake or an issue or a late payment. So please just make sure you're paying attention to when your payments are due, and make sure you're making these payments on time. And if they can't be on time, make sure you're avoiding the 30-day mark. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time.
Cool.
Valuable information for our clients.
Of course.
Check out the video, and we'll see you next time at Beyond the Mortgage.